on X and see if we. So, I just want to show you something before we start. They've cordoned off all these statues. I don't know why. I don't know if you can see that over there. They've cordoned off all these statues. I'm sure this one of is that Gandhi. So let me just bring you over. I'll come back there. That was quite good. So they've cordoned off even Gandhi's. Gandhi, I think that's Gandhi, is it? Yeah, it's Gandhi. So they've cordoned off Gandhi's statue. I don't know if some people were doing bad things to it, but I think that's the suffragettes. But I wanted to get somewhere where there was slightly more light, because last time it was all absolutely black. So I wanted somewhere, so we're in Parliament Square, and wanted somewhere where there was some more illumination there. So I thought I would just update you on what's actually happening, and that under Labour, I doubt very much whether before this next election we're going to see an actual grooming gang inquiry. I don't think that we are, and I've not got a tripod here, guys, so I'm going to have to hold it. I don't think that we are going to see a Labour Party grooming gang inquiry. And this is the difficulty. When a 400 seat majority by the people who should be being investigated is held in here, then it's unlikely that we're going to actually get an ability to scrutinise the people who should be being investigated. So the people in here are the ones who facilitated and carried out this mass immigration. And now we're seeing people getting stabbed in the train. We've seen it all over Europe, people being murdered by Muslims, mass rapes, covered up by the political class. Covered up by, there's Big Ben banging away there in the background, covered up by the political class. The people who should be upholding law and order are the people that are facilitating the rapes and murders of children throughout the UK by people who they brought in, who are now holding a mayoral office when they've actually they've never, like, I don't know if that's actually better in when they weren't even born here. People who are not born here should not be holding offices, mayoral offices, or even councillors. It's absolutely unbelievable that somebody who just turned up is going to understand the situations on the ground at a local or a national level. There should be restrictions on people who are not born here, should not be holding office. In any, even councillor, I wouldn't have them holding office. And they've got no understanding of the history or anything else that actually happens here. And there's a guy, Campbell, as well in Scotland, who seems to think that he's contributed massively to Scotland while tearing down statues with Scottish people who have made a difference to Scotland. And he's wanting to tear down the statues as if he's a great contributor to Scottish life. And I don't think he was even born here. And we have now got the globalist elite who want open borders. The reason they want open borders is for cheap labour. Yet there is hundreds of thousands of people who are in the UK who are claiming benefits who are foreign nationals. Now, I would suggest that foreign nationals shouldn't be able to claim benefits. This isn't an international service. This is a national service, whether it be social services, NHS, any of these things should be held for people who are born here and have contributed to society, whether them or previous generations. It's not a service where, we'll just turn up in the UK and we won't be able to access services that the locals should be doing. That's a definite pull for people who want to abuse the system and who want to come here even illegally to claim benefits, and it would mitigate a large proportion of the hole that's in the public sector black hole, financial black hole. The government says, oh, we've got a huge black hole. Well, if you weren't paying for foreign nationals to get access to benefits that they shouldn't be entitled to, then that would actually mitigate it all. If you just cut state benefits to foreign nationals, that would probably have a massive reduction in both the people who are inactive here and also who are shouldn't really be entitled to these benefits, whether it be NHS or a housing benefit or any of the other benefits. The open borders policy has been throughout Europe. It's not just one country, which means it has to be coordinated centrally. It's been coordinated centrally by the WEF, who want cheap labour and to reduce the overall living costs in the UK by undercutting the nationals here wages, which is facilitating capital and labour movement. But it's not really labour movement if people are coming here to claim benefits, which they probably shouldn't be entitled to. It's not an international health service, it's a national health service. And that's a big issue just now. This is an issue that we are actually paying. There's a massive hole in the finances, yet we are paying for other people's benefits. Even like in the SNP, the SNP paid £500 million to an Indian fellow for steelworks that didn't even materialise. They would be better paying £500 million to get a Scottish stock market set up, which again Nippy didn't actually facilitate or didn't do. She gave £1 million to a guy, which wasn't enough to actually set up the stock market, ridiculously small amount. And where's the £1 million and the guy's disappeared and there's no Scottish stock market? I mean, it's absolutely staggering. And then they're complaining about, there's a hole here. There's a hole. There's nothing here. And I don't know who these fellas are, but there's a hole in the finances. And what we've got is people actually coming here. They have gotten unable or unwilling to work, who shouldn't be getting a housing benefit or social security when they're not nationals of the country. They've just been allowed in to sit on unemployment benefit or housing benefit. What we should be doing is putting in a 3-year, 5-year ban on people being able to, if the people that come here, they shouldn't be able to access benefits. And they'd have to be on a waiting list to get a council house like anybody else, instead of being prioritised asylum seekers, so-called asylum seekers, which is just part of the mass immigration, the ability for the globalists to get their cheap labour. And they don't care if you're going bankrupt in the process. So, I mean, it's just absolutely staggering. This is the problem. And now we're actually seeing people coming here who are committing murders of children. And still nothing been done. 900 new guests for Cameron Barracks. Exactly. That are going to be just shipped up to Inverness. It's been done deliberately, and it's because of people's choices of politicians. If you don't start to be more discerning about, and which means that you don't vote for your party or the Greens either, any of the Lib Lab Con Party, the SNP, any of the Nationalist Party, Sinn Féin, or anybody else. There's that guy Grady going to the mosque with Anis Sarwar, who is causing major problems in Scotland already. The only fortuitous thing is they might be down to single-digit MPs. That's the only good thing that might actually happen when Labour stand next year. But we're already going to then get in the wokey wefter, who SNP, who are completely in line with more immigration anyway, and they don't care about the barrack stuff. Highland Council paid £20 million for refurbishment, but they didn't know the migrants were coming. Yeah, well, if all of the political parties at the higher echelons in Scotland all know that they're on board with the globalist agenda. It isn't just one, it's all of them. So the fact that they're saying, oh, we didn't know, they're all on board with the open border immigration. They don't care about the murders and rapes. We're not going to see an inquiry, and if we do see an inquiry, it's going to be a cover-up. They're already trying to fudge it and not say that this is a Muslim problem. I've never said it's a Pakistani problem. I said it's a Muslim problem. I've never said it's because these people are Pakistanis. I said it's because of Muslims. And if you've got a protagonist who is a murderer and a rapist, and that's morally correct, then you can understand why downstream of that you're going to get people who murder and rape you because of their ideology, because they think that's moral. So, I mean, that's just part and parcel of what's actually happening. We've already seen that with the stabbings yesterday, 7 stabs yesterday. So, Baxter Foods were given contract for ration packs for fine food cabinet, or they were given fines. So it's a racket as well, because companies are then, like whether it be hotels, are then given lucrative contracts to house illegal immigrants, only men, who are then raping and abusing children, up to including murdering them, like we saw with the guy from Rwanda, who is meant to be a Muslim, who Tommy Robinson had said was in the same jail as him and is a practicing Muslim, covered up. Didn't see Stammer talking about the 7 people that were killed. Didn't see Stammer actually doing anything constructive about the Muslim child rape gangs, considering he was the head of the legal system down here. And why would the people who are meant to be investigated in here be marking their own homework? You would want other parties who were not, who probably had less or cleaner hands than were actually facilitating the mass rapes of children by Muslim child rape gangs, who might be also drug gangs as well, who were recruiting police, who were involved in the rapes, who the counsellors and the social workers were actually covering it up. To the extent where the police officers, Muslim police officers, were also raping the kids. Highland Council said migrants will be dispersed throughout the northwest Highland region with few weeks coming. Well, that's going to be great. So the Afghani migrant, probably one of the few, raped a child in Elgin, and was one of the few people from Afghanistan in Elgin, and he was already a rapist and raped a child over here. How much are you going to put up with? How much is going to be enough? How many people need to get stabbed and murdered before you stop voting for these people? Unless they've got a hard line on saying, no, we're not going to put these people up, and actually put them on a plane. I've been deported from a country. You're put in a plane and deported back to the country of origin. That's how you get deported. We already know they're covering everything up. Everything's been covered up. We already know this. We already know that Keir Starmer's going to protect himself. Keir Starmer's going to protect himself from any allegations that he was covering up the Muslim child rape gangs. Same with Gordon Brown, same with Tony Blair, who started this. But you could also say Boris Johnson's as well. The reason they're using refugees are welcome here and all that crap is because they know that people will feel sorry if you are a genuine refugee, as do I. But there's 100,000 people. Highland Council said there were no migrants in Highland region, yet there was the Britannia Hotel in Inverness, yeah. And you've got I already said that there was a rape of a child in Elgin. Guy's just been convicted. An Afghani, funnily enough, a Muslim, raping a kid, because raping the kafir isn't haram. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand who Maria the Copt is. You can't really have conversations with Muslims, because if you're not understanding what the Quran says and why people find that morally acceptable, you're not going to be able to debate people, including their own political class, and why it's morally wrong. And there's that guy, Grady with Sarwar at the Muslim Council, some graffiti that said Scots first, which I fail to see as anti-Islamic. You should probably said stop the rapes and murders by Muslims. That would have been more in line with something that may be anti-Islamic, but still correct. No, still correct. And I don't know how many people have to get raped and murdered before you stop voting for these parties. I don't know at what point do the British public, because you're voting them in. I told you not to vote for Starmer before the last election. You voted them in to get rid of the also equally incompetent, equally globalist Conservative Party. I've told you all this. I've said who the bad guys are, including the SNP. If you don't start to understand from the globalist top down, it's not just happening in one country, it's happening in multiple countries, unless you've got a strong leader that stands against it, like Poland, like Austria. You've got strong leaders who stand against it. And there's the guy from the PVV in Holland, who's a good guy, who understands it, didn't get a majority. He should definitely get the majority there. And voting on more centrist, more globalist shilling parties. While people are getting stabbed, murdered all over the place. Like people's lives are becoming worse and not being protected by the political class. You've got to be murdered before you get justice. So what's my right of self-defence so I don't get murdered? What's the right of an individual's right of self-defence to prevent them getting murdered or the murder of other people? At what point do I start getting armed and saying I'm not interested in your laws anymore? What point do I arm myself in the protection of myself and others? I mean, it's getting to that stage, and it will all go south very quickly on the back of that, because of the failure, because of their failure. So. But I mean, we've also got piano teeth there in your party. It's about time. Drugs in Venezuela. It's about oil. Yeah. Of course, the Venezuelans have got an absolutely massive amount of oil. There's obviously oil as part of it, but again, our doughballs in charge are not drilling in the North Sea, unless you replace the plastics with something else that's equally as good. You've got pharmacy, you've got all sorts of other things that are happening where there is an alternatives that are being not just fuel, that are products of oil, and we are not even drilling for it just now. So I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And we've got the North Sea, so we're getting poorer because of Baldy John and the Greens and the absolute morons that are in there. Not to mention your party, who can't even get their act together to stand as an actual going concern, as a political entity. Who the absolute doughball reasons, whatever her name is, said that they're going to stand at the Scottish Parliament. Another collective bunch of clowns. I mean, you couldn't write it. Absolutely bonkers. And until the actual voting public starts to vote against these people, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And that woman that was phoned in the other day there, whose friend got murdered, I mean, absolutely disgraceful, the amount of people that she knew that would get murdered as well. Staggering. But if you're trying to put any solace in the people that you've elected in here, you can forget it. Every one of these political entities are culpable or beholden to the globalists in the WEF and the EU, who, including the SNP, the so-called progressives, who are just a bunch of communists. You probably weren't wanting to actually say to them that you're a communist and you're an Islamist. Two largest mass murdering political ideologies that have actually been known to man. And yet they're actually doing it. They're all owned, all bought and paid for. Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. And but you still don't have to vote for them. You can stand, you can vote against them. You can just keep standing, keep going out there and keep saying things like Nixon Troney did, and really unveiled the whole hornet's nest just up the road in Tower Hamlets. And he was denied the legitimate right of his political party being able to walk through and hold a rally because of violence that the police aren't controlling. That's a police problem. The political parties should not be banned from marching anywhere, and the police should be there in such numbers that they prevent the counter demonstration, preventing a legitimate march. Just absolute bunch of bullies. And what happens now? We've now got 7 people stabbed on a train last night. Come on, people.